Hello everybody, welcome to this instruction video. In this video I'd like to show you part 4 of Rozeta. Rozeta is the Scheepjes Cal 2019, designed by Tatjana from Lillebjorn Crochet. In part 4 we're going to be making this band here. So we're going to be extending the mandala that we've made. We're going to be adding textured design to the mandala. I'm using an Art Tribe kit, so I've got Scheepjes Art Tribe yarn. There's also a color crafter kit. With the Art Tribe I'm using a 3.5mm hook. If you have a color crafter kit you'll need a 4mm hook. So I'll take you step by step through all the rounds that make up part 4. I hope it's a useful video for you and thank you for watching. Round 36. This is the first round of part 4, and remember we joined with the wrong color at the end of part 3. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take out my stitch marker, my stitch keeper in this case. I'm just going to undo that slip knot, or slip stitch, the slip stitch. Pick up my working yarn, my loop here, and then the yarn color we need now is, if you have a Art Tribe kit like I have, it's color D. If you have a color crafter, it's color E. Then in that stitch, insert, and then we're going to make the slip stitch with color D or E. There we go. And I'm just going to pull both loops tight. You're going to leave yarn A attached. So leave that attached while we're going to work this entire round with color D or E. So chain 2, which is as always not a stitch. Then here in the position where you're currently in, going to work a treble, and that's going to be the first of 23. So you're going to work 23 trebles. And you do not have to take this yarn with, just leave it to the back. So don't do anything with your yarn A, just leave it to the back. And now I've worked 3 trebles, so I need 20 more. So continue until you have 23. 23. There we go, 23 trebles. And the next stitch work 2 trebles. 1 and 2. Now this little bit you're going to do 17 more times. We're going to do 18 times in total. I've just shown you once. So that means now we're going again 23 trebles and then work 2 trebles in the next stitch. So you're going to do 17 more times, 18 times in total. And here after you do your last 2 trebles, your last increase, we're just going to change colors back to yarn A here to the back, and I'll just show you how to do that. But first go all the way around, work 23 trebles and then work 2 in the next stitch and go all the way around. At the end of the round, we're now back to the beginning. You see here I did those last 2 trebles. So what we're going to do is we're going to close to the first stitch, and then by doing that with the slip stitch, and then change to yarn A. What you can do first, if you want to, you can already cut yarn D or E, whichever one you have. You can cut the yarn that you use for this round. And then if you look here at your first stitch, that's the first stitch. So skipping the chain 2, then bringing yarn A up, close with a slip stitch using yarn A. So that means we've now changed colors to yarn A, and we'll do the next round in this color. Round 37. This round is totally different from any round that we've done before. We're going to start with a chain 1. This is not a stitch, and then we work 5 double crochets. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There we go, 5 double crochets. Now we're going to work a front post double treble. And exactly where we work this front post double treble kind of depends on where you are in this round. We'll always be making it in these stitches from 2 rows down. So that's for me that's the green. Those are the trebles that you made in color A. You'll always be using that one. But exactly which stitch you make it in, you're kind of going to have to make an estimate, because what you want is you want these front post stitches to be straight. And you'll always make it either under the stitch immediately under where you're currently at, or maybe under the next stitch, or maybe under the stitch before, especially when we do the increases. So you kind of have to go to eyeball this, which one of these stitches is going to give you a treble that's straight, or a double treble, because if it's skewed like this or like that, that's what you don't want. You want it to be straight. So give yourself a bit of artistic room here to take the position that works best to give you a straight stitch. I'm going to yarn over twice for the double treble, and now I'm going to make it immediately in the stitch underneath where I am right now. Like I said, this is a front post double treble. Now you can see, if you put it down flat, that this stitch here is nice and straight. So I'll show you the repeat again, and then also always remember that you're going for this straight stitch here. You're going to skip the next stitch to the back. See there, it's going to skip one stitch. That's because this front post stitch also wants space to rest. So I'm going to skip one stitch to the back, and now we'll start again with 5 doubles. 2, 3, 4, 5. Now again a front post double treble, and again we're wanting it to be straight down, so you're kind of going to take that stitch there again. It's going to turn a little bit forward from where you are right now. So I'm going to do it. Just come down. I'm going to take this stitch here. There you go. You see how nice and straight that stitch is. I'll actually show you what it looks like if I take it to a different position. So I'm not going to take this stitch, the one that I just took, but I'm going to take the next stitch. You see, if you compare these two, how that one is much more slanted than this one. So you don't want this slanted stitch, you want the straight stitch. So I'm going to take that out again. So especially here in the beginning, it's going to become straight down. After you do your increases, that might change, that you will might need a different stitch. Then skip a stitch to the back again and work the next double. I've now worked the repeat 2 times. I'm just going to jump forward to a next section in the pattern where we've done an increase in the previous round, and then you'll just see that the best position to choose for these double trebles that actually changes, because now we had this stitch immediately underneath, and then it'll be just a slightly different place. But continue with this idea, the 5 doubles and then the front post stitch, the front post double treble, skipping a stitch. This you're going to do all the way around. You're just going to have to eyeball which position is going to be the best to give you those straight stitches. I've now worked to repeat, well, actually many times. And here you see an increase. There have been more increases before, because you can see here I've worked quite a bit already. What I want to show you here is I've done all of these stitches in the same relative position, so in that immediately underneath position that we started with. but you can see this stitch is clearly slanted, whereas this one is straight. So this stitch here, I'm actually going to have to take one stitch forward to get it straight. And that's what you're going to have to be like kind of making an estimate on when you're doing this round. Where do you put that position? Where do you put that treble? Or that double treble? Because you see this double treble I put here immediately underneath, exactly like I did there. But then because of this increase, it doesn't look straight anymore. So I'm actually going to take this, not in this stitch, but in the next stitch. And skip a stitch to the back and work the next double. You can see now this stitch is now, it looks ever so slightly slanted to the other side, but relatively speaking it's much straighter. So you're going to have to kind of just eyeball exactly where you place those double trebles and to try to get them as straight as you want them to be, as straight as you can get them to be. So do this repeats all the way around. So that means keep on working 5 double crochets and then the front post double treble, skipping a stitch to the back, all the way around. When we're at the end of the round, we're just going to change to color F, and we'll do that again with the slip stitch. We'll change colors then, but go all the way around and I'll just show you the color change again. At the end of round 37, I hope this round didn't give you too much stress. Please don't worry about exactly making these stripes vertical. Don't let them stress you out. Just take this nice and easy. We're now at the end of the round, and we're going to change to color F. So for me it's this light gray color. You will have a different color if you have a different kit. So color F, and then on the first stitch going to close with the slip stitch and then change to color F. So the first stitch here is of course that double crochet there, insert into that stitch and then make the slip stitch with a new color. There we go. And I'm just going to pull yarn A tight, and then we're ready for the next round. Leave yarn A attached. Okay, leave this yarn attached because we're just going to take it up as we move along. And now we're ready for round 38. Round 38. So with yarn F on my hook, just leave yarn A here to the back. We're not going to take it with us or anything, just leave it there. We'll come back to that later. Chain 2. This is not a stitch, this is just to get you up to the working height. And now we're going to work 24 trebles. So the first one is of course in the stitch where we're currently in. So that's the first treble, so that's 1, 2, 3. We're going to continue until we have 24, so that's quite a bit on. Just going to continue working these trebles, and 24. Now worked 24 trebles. In the next stitch work 2 trebles. I've still got yarn, I've got my hook around yarn A here. Keep yarn A out of the way to the back and just ignore it. Then in the next stitch work 2 trebles, and this you're going to repeat all the way around. So 24 trebles and then 2 trebles, and then again 24 and 2. So you're going to do this all the way around 17 more times. And here after your last 2 trebles, you're going to work 2 trebles in that last stitch. Then you're going to close here on the first stitch, that's that treble there with the slip stitch, and you're going to do that with yarn A. So you're going to bring yarn A up, so you're going to bring yarn A up, and then in that first stitch you're going to make the slip stitch with yarn A, and then you're ready for the next round. So the next round we're going to work with yarn A again. So this is a nice easy round. 24 trebles and then an increase, 2 trebles in the next stitch all the way around and close with yarn A. End of round 38, I'm all the way around. You can cut yarn F at this point, so I've cut yarn F, leaving myself a decent yarn tail to work in. And then we're going to close on the first stitch here with a slip stitch using yarn A. So for me that's the green yarn. So using yarn A, work a slip stitch. There we go. And that means you've just brought yarn A up at the back from the previous round to where we are now. There we go. Now a good thing to do now at this point is you're going to mark all your increases. So here you see here I have 2 trebles in the one stitch. Mark that increase with the stitch markers. I've got one here. You'll have them all the way around. I've got one here. Still need one here in the last increase we made. So I just need to grab a stitch marker because I need one extra. And then just hook up a stitch marker there at this last position. There you go. So now I've marked all my increases all the way around. So you see here I've got one. So every place you have an increase, you've got those 2 trebles in one stitch. Just mark that position. That'll just help you to keep track of them in the next round. And now we're ready for round 39. Round 39. Start with a chain 1, which is not a stitch, and that means in the stitch we're already at, going to start with a double crochet. So in that stitch where we're currently in, double crochet. It's 1, 2, and 3. We work 3 double crochets on the first 3 stitches. We're now going to come down and work a front post double treble between the 2 posts we made 3 rows ago, I believe, and here in the middle you have 5 double crochets in that center one. So here you've got a front post treble, then 2 doubles, and on this side a front post treble and 2 doubles. That means that middle one, that's the one we're going to make the front post double treble around. And it's easy if you just look at the furthest stitch and then count 3 back. So you've got this, the furthest one, then those 2 doubles, and then that one there. This is the one you're going for, that one. You're going to make a front post double treble around that little stitch there. Then come back up and complete the double treble. Yeah. Skip a stitch to the back. Skip a stitch to the back, and then make 5 doubles again. 2, 3, 4, 5 doubles. Now it's 5 doubles. Later on it will be 6 when we get to an increase. That's why we mark the increases. I'll show you that when we get there. For the moment, 5 doubles. Now we're again going to come down, and here the center stitch, that one there, going to make a front post treble around it, double treble, because we've got 2 here and 2 there. So front post double treble. That's twice over. And then again, it's easiest if you just take here and then count 3 back. See that stitch there? Around the post of that stitch. And then take off 2, take off 2, take off 2. And again, skip a stitch to the back. And then 5 doubles again. 2, 3, 4, 5. There we go. And again, a front post double treble here in the middle, so that middle stitch, 2 there, 2 there, so that middle stitch there. Twice over. Work and you're always going to have 5 double crochets, except for the point where you have an increase, and that's why we've marked the increase, that you realize like, oh, this is a place where you need 6 doubles and not 5. So I'm just going to continue working a little bit until I get to that increase. So skipping a stitch. So I'll just make a few more of these repeats, and this you're going to do all the way around. 3, 4, 5. Rotate a bit. And now again twice over. Then that's the front post stitch, and then take 3 back. That stitch there, work the treble. And now we're going to have one where I believe we have an increase. I just look at the position of this increase. So that's why we've marked it, that you can't accidentally miss this. So, and after we've worked the increase here, we've worked this position, you can remove the stitch marker. So skipping a stitch to the back. So now it's 1, 2, I'm going to remove the stitch marker, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6 doubles this time round, because we have that increase there. And now work the front post double treble, and that's around the same position. So that stitch, then come back 3 positions and work the front post stitch, 3, and then skip a stitch to the back and work the first double. And now again it's only going to be 5 doubles because there's no increase here, there was only one here. So this you're going to repeat all the way around, and every time you get to a stitch marker, you're going to, in that little piece there, you'll have 6 doubles instead of 5, and all other pieces you'll have 5 doubles. So this is just a way for you to see that stitch marker is a trigger for you. For, oh, okay, there are 6 doubles and not just 5. So go all the way around, and when you're here, I'll just show you, when we're about here, I'll see you here again, just for the last bit of the repeat. Just gone all the way around. See here all the stitches. I've got my last stitches left. I've just done the last repeat, and I've got 1 increase left here. So that's why we're going to be working 3 double crochets before we get to the first stitch. So I'm just going to remove this last stitch marker. I'm going to skip that last stitch to the back there, and now we work 3 more doubles, and we're going to close on the first double crochet with a slip stitch, and while we do so we change colors to yarn D. So this is yarn D. Come to the first stitch, that's that double crochet, just bring everything together, and then we change colors with the slip stitch. There we go. Again, leave yarn A attached, so don't do anything with that. And then the next round we do in color D. Round 40, I'm going to start with a chain 2. And then starting in the first stitch, going to work 25 trebles. Here's 1, 2, going to work 25, and then we work an increase, and then 25 trebles again, and another increase until you're all the way around. I'm just going to work 25 trebles here. There you go, 25 trebles. There's a whole stretch of stitches, 25 trebles. And then in the next stitch we work 2 trebles, so this is an increase. It's 1 and 2. And we're again just going to mark this increase. Again, it doesn't matter whether you take the first, the second stitch or somewhere in the middle, but you want to mark these increases. So it's just that you see them in the next round, so that's the purpose of this, just exactly the same as before. Now this we're going to repeat all the way around. So now again going to work 25 trebles and then work 2 trebles and 1 stitch marking that. So you're going to go all the way around. Here, after you've done your last increase, those last 2 trebles, you're going to make a slip stitch and then join with yarn A again. So just as we've done before. So a slip stitch you do with yarn A. And then you can cut this color, yarn D, you can then cut. Round 41, we're going to be doing the same idea as we did here in round 39, where we work these front post trebles, or double trebles even. We're going to be doing the same idea. Start with a chain 1, which is not a stitch, and then in the same position where we're currently at, just pull that slip stitch a bit tighter. Going to work a double crochet. There we go. This is the first of 7. 7 double crochets. So 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There we go. Now we're going to come down and work a front post double treble between those 2 stitches. So here we have 5 doubles, so that middle one we're going to take, so twice over, and that middle stitch there, you work a front post double treble. There you go. Skip a stitch to the back, and then work the first double of 5 doubles. It's going to be 5 double crochets usually, and if you happen to have an increase, like here's our first increase, then it's 7 doubles, but otherwise it's 5. So it's the same idea as with the previous time here around 39. So 1, 2, 3, so I need 2 more, 4, 5. Again here in the middle, so I'm going to take that one, it's the center one. If you happen to have 6 double crochets instead of 5, because sometimes you'll have 6, then you just have to make a decision about which one to you is more central. So sometimes it's a bit of an eyeball. Just make your own estimate, and that's the good thing about crochet, is that you can make your own estimates sometimes. You don't have to have your pattern cast in stone. So here again I've just done 5 doubles, and now I'm going to come down here and work that front post stitch. Just twice over. Take all the loops off, skip a stitch to the back, and again next repeat is 2, 3, 4, 5. So now I'm going to work 5, work the front post. Here I'm going to work the front post stitch, and then I've got an increase, so the next one will be 7 doubles, and this is the center stitch. Skipping a stitch to the back, skipping a stitch. I'm just going to remove the stitch marker, because at this point you can remove the stitch markers because you're not going to need them. So I'm just going to skip a stitch, and now I'm going to work 7. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 doubles instead of 5. And now I'm going to come down and work a that treble in there. 1, 2, 3. Skip a stitch to the back and then work a double. And this is the repeat. You're going to keep on doing this. Work 5 doubles when you have no repeat and work 7 doubles when you do have a repeat. And then here you take your center stitch, and like here you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 singles, and here I just make an estimate of do I take this stitch or that stitch. So kind of choose which one works best, but here when you have 5 it's easy which one is the center. So you're going to repeat this all the way around. And when you get here, I'll just show you the end, because we're going to mark the last stitch and I'm going to switch and everything. So I'll just show you the last bit of this round as well. Almost all the way around. Here is the last few stitches till we get back to the beginning again. I'm just going to remove this stitch marker here for that last repeat, because on that last repeat we don't have to work 7 double crochets but only 5, because we started with this 7. So I'm just going to skip a stitch here to the back and then work 5 doubles. 2, 3, 4, 5. And that last treble is going to come here in the middle. I think I'm going to take that stitch there. Twice over, take that stitch there, and it is slightly hidden because that stitch also contains a slip stitch, so I'm just going to eyeball this and take it there. It's a bit harder because that stitch has a slip stitch from the previous round. There we go. And what I'm now going to do is mark this stitch here. I'm just going to mark this stitch, and the reason for that is in the next round then you know where to start. Mark that stitch and then close on the first stitch here, so on that first double there with the slip stitch. There we go. And now turn your work. So turn your work. I still have a yarn tail here. You're going to have the back of your work facing the wrong side facing for the next round. So turn your work. Now we're ready for round 42. Round 42, so you have the back of your work facing the wrong side facing. I'm going to start with the chain 2, as always. And now we're going to make the first stitch in this marked stitch, and that's why you marked it, so that you know exactly which stitch you need. So in that marked stitch, going to work the first of 13 trebles. So in that stitch there, that's the first of 13, and that's the reason you marked it, that you knew exactly which stitch you need. So at this point you can remove the marker again. I'm just actually going to leave it just attached there, because when we come back you're again going to mark the last stitch, so that's why I just have it handy. So that was the first of 13, so that's 1, this is 2, 3, so a treble on every stitch until you have 13 of them. 13. Those were 13 trebles. Now we're going to start the repeat units. And the repeat unit starts with 2 trebles in the next stitch. So it's 2 trebles in the next stitch. And now you're going to work 26 trebles. So in the next stitches you work 26. That means what we've just done, those first 13, is half a repeat. So at the end, also going to finish with half a repeat, but I'll show you the end when we get there. You're now going to work 26 trebles, and then you work an increase again. So 26 trebles, and then work 2 trebles in the next stitch, and then again 26 trebles all the way around. So it's 2 and then 26, 2 and 26. So keep on counting until you've done your last 26. Then I'll just see you at that point, because then you're going to finish the last half of the repeat. So continue with 2 trebles and then 26 trebles until you're almost all the way around. Almost all the way around of round 42. I've just done a repeat, so I've just worked 26 trebles, and now the last part I just like to show you. In the next stitch we're going to work 2 trebles. That's 1 and 2, and then on the following 13 stitches going to work a treble. And especially that last one might be a bit, well, you might be a bit unsure about that. That's going to be in the same position as where we already have the slip stitch and the chain 2. So I'm just going to work 13 trebles here. This is 12, so this is treble number 12, and the next stitch you see here already has the slip stitch and the chain 2. But so in that position you're also going to work treble number 13. There we go. And I'm just going to mark treble 13 here with the slips with the stitch marker, so I can find it in the next round easy. You're not, this is just to help you. Oh dear, I should not lose the stitch. I know I've lost the stitch. Okay, let me just do that again. So that's to help you find the stitch in the next round. But that of course assumes that you're not going to lose the loop. There we go. Now we're going to close on the first stitch. That's the treble here. There, going to close on that stitch with a slip stitch. And we're going to change colors. Now the color I have here is color B for the Our Tribe and color E if you have the color crafter kit. If you're in doubt, just check the pattern which color you need. So I'm going to make the slip stitch with the new yarn, and then that's it. Now you're ready for the next round. Leave yarn A attached, so that's important. We're going to use that in the round after this. Round 43. What's important now is you have the right side of your work facing, so you've turned your work with respect to round 42, so you have the right side facing. It's important. And this round we're going to work in color B or E, and you're going to leave yarn A here to the back. You're just going to ignore that. We'll pick that up in the next round. Start with the chain 1. This is not a stitch. Where we are going to work the first stitch is in the marked stitch that we made at the end of the last round. So in that marked stitch, and that's going to be the first of 5 double crochets. So in that stitch, you might just have to pull these threads to the back, work the first double. That's 1, and then you can remove the stitch marker. So 1, and 2, 3, 4, 5 doubles. Now we're going to come down and we're going to work 2 front post double trebles, and we're going to work them here in those double crochet stitches there 2 rows down. And what we again want is we want these posts to be vertical. So remember, just like the rounds before, where you sometimes have to make it a call of judgment about where you're going to put those trebles. You need to do that now as well. So I'm going to yarn over twice, and then I'm going to come down and I'm going to take this stitch here. So you will always take a stitch in this round of double crochets, but exactly which one you take you'll have to make a judgment call on that to see which one gives you a treble that is nice and straight. I'm reasonably okay with that. If it's really skew, you want to take a stitch forward or backwards. You want this to be as straight as possible. But we're going to do 2, and the next one is always going to be in the stitch next to it. So that's easy. It's especially that first one that you're going to have to make a judgment call on. There you go. So that's 2 trebles, front post, double trebles even, twice over. Now we're going to skip 2 stitches to the back and then work 5 doubles again. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now we're going to do the same. Again, work 2 front post double trebles, and again make an estimate about which stitches you're going to take. I'm going to take those 2 double crochets there. It could sometimes also happen that you even take the treble, the double treble that you have here. So you're going to have to make a judgment call, and this you're going to repeat all the way around. And especially when you've had an increase, you'll find that your stitches might move about exactly which position you take. And this is the same idea as we've had 2 rows before, but then we only had the 1 front post stitch. Now we've got the 2. As you can see here, I'm just going to skip 2 stitches to the back and then work a double again. So this idea, these 5 doubles and these 2 front post stitches, I'm going to do this all the way around. And here, for example, in a certain point you'll have an increase, which I can't seem to find right now, but it's here. It's here somewhere. See, there's an increase. That will affect exactly where you place your stitches, and you want these to be nice and straight. You see here, they're nice and straight. And you know, if you think, okay, the left one is better or the right one is better, just take the one that you think looks better. So don't let yourself be too stressed about this. Just take the stitches that you think looks best. Now I've worked 5 doubles, and I think I'm going to take that double there, and I'm going to take the treble here, and then we'll just see what it looks like. And if I don't like it, I'll take it out and I'll work them again. And actually, I've done that the previous time we did these rows. That I would work a stitch and I think, no, it's not as straight, and then I'd go back and I'd just take them out and do it again, because you want them to be as straight as you can have them. You say, okay, is this straight enough? Yes, I'm okay with that. So I'm going to leave them here. If you think, oh, they're slanted too much, just take a stitch forward or a stitch back, whichever one you need. So then skip 2 stitches to the back, and that's 3 stitches, so just 2. Skip 2 stitches, and then take a double here again. And this you're going to repeat all the way around. Yes, you're going to every time make 2 front post trebles and 5 double crochets in between. And then I'll just see you here at the end for the last bit and the closing on the stitch. Almost back to the beginning of round 43. I have one more repeat to do. I'm going to just skip 2 stitches to the back. I'm going to skip those 2 stitches and then work the last of 5 trebles. Sorry, not 5 trebles, 5 doubles. 3, 4, and 5. Now we have the last 2 front post double trebles. I'm going to do them on these 2 stitches here. On the double crochet and the front post double around the treble here, double treble. There we go. We're going to mark this last stitch. That's because in the next round we're going to turn again, and then you just know exactly which stitch you need. I'm going to close on the first stitch. So that's the double crochet here, close on that stitch with a slip stitch, and then change colors to yarn A. Just going to grab yarn A here. So I'm just going to bring it up from the back, then change to yarn A. You can, if you pull yarn B, it'll close nicely. Round 44, you've turned your work and you have the back side facing, so this is the wrong side of your work. You see here, the front, all your nice details, so the wrong side facing. Start with a chain 2, which is not a stitch, and then in the stitch we marked in the previous round, I'm going to start in that stitch with the first of 25 trebles. So that is the first of 25. That's one, and you can also remove the stitch marker. 2, and just continue until you have 25 trebles, one on every stitch. 25. It's 25 trebles. And then now we're going to start the repeat unit. The repeat unit is going to be 2 trebles in one stitch and then 27 trebles. 27. So that's important. To work 2 trebles in the next stitch, and then you work 27 trebles, one on every stitch, and that you're going to repeat almost all the way round. So 2 trebles in one stitch and then 27 trebles. Keep on repeating that until you're almost back to the finish. You'll finish at about here, then you'll have done 27 trebles, and then I'll just see you for the last few stitches. I'm almost all the way around. If it's right, you have 3 stitches left. So I've just done the 27 trebles. In the next stitch you're going to do 2 trebles. So 2 trebles in the next stitch. So 1 and 2. In the following stitch you do 1 treble, and you have 1 stitch left, and that already contains the slip stitch and the chain 2, and so in that same position work a treble, and this treble mark it with a stitch marker so that you can easily find it when we turn our work for the next round. Close with a slip stitch and then change to yarn A, and I have a few yarn tails here, so I just need to check which. Those are tails and this is the working yarn A. So I'm just going to, on that first stitch, close with a slip stitch, and then we're ready for the next round. But that's actually also the next part, so that brings us at the end of part 4. So just keep a stitch marker in there in that loop so it can continue in the next part. We'll quickly look at size. Where are we at the moment? When you've done round 44, just place a stitch marker, I've got a few here, at the increases. So every place where you've worked 2 trebles in one stitch, you see here I've got the 2 trebles in one, just hook a stitch marker in there. And that doesn't matter exactly which stitches again, so that you see where the increases are in the next round, that you don't miss them accidentally. You can also of course do this while you make the increases, but see, here's another one, so I'm just going to hook a stitch marker in there. So go all the way around and just mark your increases, and then you're ready for then you're finished with this round. So just mark all your increases. Look at what we've done in this part. We've worked this band here, these lovely textured details of the blanket. Size wise, your diameter, if you have the Our tribe is now at about 82 centimeters. You have the color crafter, it's 92 centimeters, around and about there, plus or minus a centimeter. Really isn't the end of the world. And that's unblocked, so don't go stretched. There's quite some stretch in here, so don't stretch it when you measure it. Just put it down nice and flat. You'll also notice that your edge curls a bit. It stands a bit inward. If I pull it here, you can really see this edge. You see it's curling upward. Don't worry about that. When we work more of this, it'll become heavy and drapey, and this will flatten itself out. So don't worry about this edge standing up. So that brings us to the end of part 4. So thank you for watching, and I hope to see you next time for part 5.